do universals and particulars relate in this world? One person says, well, oneness is not real, for the existing things are many, and it is impossible to be both one and many. Another person says, manyness is not real because being is one, and based upon the law of non-contradiction, it cannot be both one and many at the same time and the same sense. So one person is emphasizing the oneness, another person is emphasizing the manyness. And a third person might come back and say, oneness is not real because the universe is the sum total of many existing things, not a third existing thing. The universe is one unity, not a many third thing. Now, as we look at this, common sense has always affirmed, per our use of language, the reality of both a one and a many. We use common and proper nouns, and we also use singular and plural speech. The point is that when we're speaking and engaging and looking at different topics, we use both one and many language in our very propositions and in the way that we think. We use proper nouns. We talk about individual things. We use, in many respects, we talk about particular subjects. We use plurals. We use singulars. Why? Because we expect our language to actually reflect the way that reality functions. Also, experience shows that both the person who affirms oneness and manyness are correct. Have you noticed this? There's one person who's overemphasizing oneness and another person who's overemphasizing the manyness to the exclusion of the other. But what reality and what experience shows is that both of them are correct. So what we need to do is find a philosophy of nature that actually accounts for both of them. And what we find is that both are correct, like we've said time and time again, evidence in normal dialogue, rational thought, and the daily affairs in the marketplace. So the burden of proof rests on the one who denies either the one or the many or both, if that's somehow possible. The individual would actually have to give an account for why all of the oneness doesn't function or why all of the manyness doesn't function. Our burden of proof is that we need to engage that person, but we've already given explanations for them. So let's keep going here. Let's maybe give an explanation for it. Oneness and manyness can coexist because oneness and manyness can exist in different respects or senses. Many different things can exist, the same species, and possess the same or one essential form. Let me just keep explaining this here. Bear with me. Keep going. Being can be both one and many in different respects. A contradiction is affirming A and non-A at the same time in the same sense. Two opposites can be affirmed as long as it isn't a contradiction. So let me give you an example here. We can talk about human nature both as a one, as a unity, but yet we can also talk about it in this idea of a plurality. And I give this example here. You can talk about a human being both in the idea that you are a particular human being, you are John. You can talk about human nature, which has a unity to it, but you can also talk about it as a many in the sense that it has a soul and a body. You can also talk about this idea of the oneness and the manyness in humanity in a variety of other ways. A human being is both visible and invisible. You have a body that's visible and a soul that is invisible. You can talk about humanity being both good and evil. You're good metaphysically, ontologically, as you exist, but you're also evil morally. Do we see how the one and the many can come together in very particular situations? And based off of this, we can see that oneness and manyness can exist, and they do sometimes exist in a variety of ways together. Now, again, a contradiction would be to say that the soul is visible and invisible at the same time in the same sense, or that you're both good and evil at the same time in the same sense. But that's not what we're affirming. We're making a distinction between them. The term universe implies both unity and diversity. We've seen that. We've seen this objection. However, there are other existing beings that are composed without implying some third thing. This idea that when you look at the universe, if you put it all together, you've got the particulars and you've got the unity. But if you're going to have a universal essence of them, you're going to have some third thing that you're appealing to. Namely, we find humans are both a soul and a body, and their unity is not a third thing. It's found in themselves, in the thing itself. It's not like there's this fancy word, the tertium quid, a third thing outside of it. But fundamentally, the premise of the entire argument is flawed. There does exist something beyond the sum total of the universe, namely God. So you've got a unity. It's a true unity, but it's not self-sufficient in and of itself. There's a God beyond.